Confidence is not built, it's activated. And here's the disturbing reality: social psychologists have discovered that confidence has nothing to do with your actual abilities and everything to do with how you interpret your body's stress signals. The person who walks into the room commanding attention has the same racing heart you do. They just think it means they're ready instead of afraid. You don't lack confidence. You lack the mental framework to flip the switch. By the end of this video, I'll show you the exact neurological reframe that activates unshakable confidence in under 60 seconds. But first, you need to see what misinterpreting your own biology is costing you. Let me show you what's happening right now. You're about to do something that matters. A presentation, a conversation, a performance, and your heart starts pounding. Your palms sweat, your breath gets shallow, and your brain immediately labels this as anxiety, as fear, as "I'm not ready." So you hesitate, you shrink, you either avoid the moment entirely or show up as a smaller version of yourself. But here's what you don't know: those physical sensations aren't fear, they're activation. Your body is preparing you to perform, and you're misinterpreting preparation as panic. Here's what nobody tells you about confidence: it's not the absence of nervousness, it's the reinterpretation of it. Confident people feel the exact same physical sensations you do before a high-stakes moment: racing heart, butterflies, tension. But they've trained their brain to label those sensations differently. Where you think "I'm scared," they think "I'm excited." Where you think "I can't do this," they think "I'm ready." Same body, same signals, different story. And the story determines everything. Now here's the brutal part. Every time you interpret your body's activation as fear, you're training your nervous system to avoid high-stakes situations. You're building a pattern that says, "When I feel this way, I'm in danger." And your brain's job is to keep you safe, so it creates more fear to stop you from doing the thing. It's trying to protect you, but it's actually imprisoning you. Because the things worth doing, the things that create growth, opportunity, connection, all come with activation. And if you can't handle activation, you can't access opportunity. Let me tell you what misinterpreting your activation costs you. First, you avoid situations where you could grow. You don't speak up. You don't put yourself out there. You stay in your comfort zone. Second, you show up small. Even when you force yourself into the situation, you're tentative, apologetic, not fully present. Third, you reinforce the pattern. Every time you interpret activation as fear, it gets stronger, until you're anxious about being anxious. Fourth, you lose opportunities, the job, the relationship, the moment, because you couldn't flip the switch when it mattered most. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. When you face something challenging, your hypothalamus triggers your sympathetic nervous system. That's the arousal system. It releases adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing quickens. Blood flows to your muscles. This is your body getting ready for action. But here's the problem: your brain doesn't automatically know if this arousal is excitement or fear, so it looks for context. And if you've been telling yourself "I'm nervous, I'm scared, I can't do this," your brain labels the arousal as threat, and threat activates avoidance. Now here's the shift that changes everything. You can relabel the arousal in real time, and relabeling changes the neurochemical response. When you tell yourself "I'm excited," your brain shifts the arousal from threat to challenge, from cortisol dominant to adrenaline dominant, from shutdown to activation. You're using the same energy, but you're channeling it differently, and that channel determines whether you show up confident or crumble under pressure. Here's the framework. Confidence has three components: physiological state, mental narrative, behavioral execution. Physiological state is what your body is doing. Mental narrative is the story you tell yourself about what your body is doing. Behavioral execution is how you act based on that story. Most people only focus on trying to calm their physiology, but that's backwards. You don't need to calm down, you need to reframe, because the activation is fuel, and fuel powers performance, but only if you see it as fuel. Let me show you what physiological reframe looks like. You feel your heart racing. Instead of thinking "I'm anxious," you think "My body is getting me ready." You feel your hands shaking. Instead of "I'm losing control," you think "My body is channeling energy." You feel tension. Instead of "Something's wrong," you think "I'm activated for peak performance." You're not denying the sensations. You're reinterpreting them. And interpretation is everything. But here's the trap. Most people try to eliminate the nervousness. They do breathing exercises to calm down. They try to relax. And sometimes that helps. But often, it backfires. Because trying to be calm when your body is activated creates internal conflict. You're fighting yourself. And fighting yourself drains energy you need for the task. So instead of fighting the activation, you ride it. You use it. You channel it into focus, energy, presence. Here's the psychology. There's a concept called arousal reappraisal. It's when you consciously reframe physiological arousal from threat to challenge. And studies show that people who reappraise perform better than people who try to calm down. Because they're working with their biology instead of against it. Their nervous system stays activated, but the activation is channeled into confidence instead of fear. And confidence under activation is charisma. It's presence. It's the thing people feel when you walk into a room. Now here's where it gets interesting. Confidence is not just internal. It's a feedback loop between your mind and your body. Your thoughts affect your body, but your body also affects your thoughts. So if you change your physiology, you can change your mental state. And the fastest way to change your physiology is through posture, breathing, and movement. You stand tall, you breathe deep, you take up space, and your brain interprets those signals as I'm in control. And control is the foundation of confidence. Here's the neuroscience. When you adopt a power pose, shoulders back, chest open, head up, your testosterone increases and your cortisol decreases. You're literally changing your hormone profile in 2 minutes. And those hormones influence how you feel. High testosterone equals dominance and confidence. Low cortisol equals less stress. So by changing your body, you're hacking your brain. And the hack works, not as a permanent fix, but as a real-time activator. Let me give you the protocol. Step 1, notice the activation. My heart is racing. My hands are tense. I'm feeling energy. Step 2, relabel it. This is not fear. This is my body preparing me to perform. Step 3, adjust your physiology. Stand tall. Breathe deep into your belly. Expand your chest. Step 4, speak the new narrative out loud if possible. I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm built for this. Step 5, move immediately into action. Don't sit with the feeling. Use it. Here's what happens when you execute this protocol. The first few times, it feels forced, like you're lying to yourself. But you're not. You're retraining your interpretation. And the more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. Your brain starts to default to I'm excited instead of I'm scared. And once that default is installed, confidence is your baseline. Not because you never feel nervous, but because nervous no longer means incapable. But here's the part most people miss. You can't just reframe once and expect permanent confidence. Confidence is context dependent. You might feel confident in one area and terrified in another, so you have to build confidence in each domain. You reframe for public speaking, then for difficult conversations, then for social situations. Each context requires repetition, but the skill of reframing transfers, so it gets faster each time. Here's what elite performers do that most people don't. They pre-frame. They don't wait until they're in the moment to reframe their activation. They do it beforehand. Before the presentation, they say I'm going to feel my heart race, and when I do, I'll know I'm ready. They're setting the interpretation in advance. So when the activation comes, their brain already knows what it means. There's no confusion, no panic, just execution. Now here's the secret method I promised you. It's called the activation anchor. You create a physical gesture that you pair with the confident state. Maybe it's a fist pump. Maybe it's a deep breath and a shoulder roll. Something small but deliberate. And every time you successfully reframe activation into confidence, you do the gesture. You're conditioning your nervous system. Over time, the gesture itself triggers the confident state. You don't have to go through the whole reframe process. You just do the gesture, and your brain recalls the state. You've anchored confidence to a trigger you control. Here's what happens when you use the anchor consistently. You're about to walk into a high-pressure situation. You feel the nervousness rising. You do your gesture, and your brain immediately shifts. Oh, this feeling means I'm ready. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but it transforms into focus, into energy, into readiness. and you walk indifferently, not because you're faking it, but because you've trained your brain to interpret your own signals correctly. But here's the trap. Some people anchor so well that they become dependent on it. They can't access confidence without the gesture. So you use the anchor as training wheels. You use it until the reframe is automatic, and then you phase it out. The goal is not to need the anchor. The goal is to install the pattern so deeply that confidence is your default interpretation of activation. Here's the identity shift you need. You're not someone who lacks confidence. You're someone who's been misinterpreting your body's readiness signals as fear. And misinterpretation is fixable. You don't need to become a different person. You need to become a better interpreter of the person you already are. And interpretation is a skill, a trainable, repeatable, life-changing skill. Let me show you what happens if you don't learn to flip the switch. You spend your life avoiding opportunities that require you to feel activated. You stay small, you stay safe, and you watch other people with the same abilities, the same potential, step into the spotlight while you stay in the shadows. Not because they're better, but because they learn to reframe what you're still running from, and that gap widens every year, until you're not just less confident, you're less experienced, less capable, because confidence isn't just a feeling, it's the gateway to action, and action is the only thing that builds a life. Here's the truth, the most successful people you admire feel nervous before big moments. They just don't let nervousness stop them. They've learned that nervousness is part of the process, not a sign to quit. And once you learn that, everything changes. You stop waiting to feel calm. You stop waiting to feel ready. You just act, activated, alert, alive. And that's what confidence actually is. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move with it. Now let me tell you what you're losing every day you misinterpret your activation. You're losing moments where you could have shined, relationships you could have built, opportunities you could have seized, and you're reinforcing a story that you're not the kind of person who can handle pressure. But that story is false. You can handle it. You just haven't learned to interpret your body correctly, and interpretation is the switch. Here's the protocol for today. The next time you feel your heart racing before something that matters, you're going to pause. You're going to notice the sensations without judgment. And you're going to say out loud, "This is excitement. My body is getting me ready. I'm built for this." Then you're going to stand tall, breathe deep, and move into action, not waiting for the feeling to pass. Using the feeling as fuel. And you're going to prove to yourself that activation doesn't mean fear. It means readiness. Because the confidence switch is not about becoming someone new. It's about correctly reading who you already are. You're already capable. Your body knows it. It's preparing you, it's activating you, it's getting you ready to perform, and the only thing standing between you and unstoppable confidence is the story you tell yourself about what those sensations mean. Change the story, flip the switch, and watch what happens. The confidence switch is real. It's not motivation, it's not pretending, it's neurological reframe backed by science and proven by every person who's ever walked into a room and commanded it. They're not superhuman. They're just better interpreters. And now you are too. What moment are you walking into today? And what story are you telling yourself about how your body feels? Change the story, flip the switch, own the room.